All right, hello everyone. This is Pastor Gabe. Welcome to Soapbox Theology. I already did a video about why does the church go on about abortion, and but I thought I'd make another one with the potential of the Supreme Court decision of Roe versus Wade being overturned. And so once again, we've seen a lot more comments and commentary from people who just they instead view that choice is more important than life. And so often the argument becomes economic, as if the economic dire straits of a particular family, i.e., those who are in poverty or would be potentially in poverty, the only humane solution seems to be murder. Which I kind of feel like if you thought about that for 5 seconds instead of just reposting what someone else posted that you thought maybe was clever, is just so bankrupt and utterly immoral. I kind of touched on this in the other video a little bit, but just increasingly seeing these people who they list all of these economic problems, like, well, if you don't, if it's not a choice, then people are going to be in dire straits, and they're going to suffer with poverty, and they're not going to have access to all of these available goods, and they'll be on welfare, and they might even be in a family that doesn't want them, and all of these different notions, largely economic, some having to do with wanting or not wanting the child. I even saw one today where it was basically says, don't tell me you're pro-life unless you're willing to support the child cradle to grave. As if you couldn't possibly take a position on right or wrong unless you are willing to shoulder the burden of or the challenge, or whatever you want to call it, of taking on the responsibility of a life for someone else. And in some way they have a point in that you should be willing to help in that sort of a situation. But listen to what they're saying. They're saying a stranger, and it's funny because they actually use this argument. This is kind of known as the violinist argument, where they imagine that there's someone on their deathbed, and you were in a coma, and you found out that when you woke up from a coma, this person is now still in a coma, but you have been kind of wired to them. They're living off of your blood, off of your body. And they're saying it's not immoral to unhook them and let them die. But the problem with that scenario is essentially in the situation of you being pregnant with your child, it's not a stranger, it's your child. So it's your child who is dependent on you for the life support that your body is giving them. Second of all, it's a separate person. It's not your own body. There is someone else out there who is relying upon you. It's not your body. So it's not your body, your choice. It's someone else's body, and their life or death is being decided on your choice. And in any other situation, when you choose for someone else's life, that's called murder. But back to this idea of somehow someone else is responsible to totally take care of someone simply because you have you take umbrage, you have a problem with their moral reasoning. So let's take this into some other situations. God says, "Thou shalt not steal." So if I comment that stealing is wrong, thievery is wrong, as we've actually seen with the riots and all of that sort of thing, if I dare to have an opinion on that and share it and argue that it's a case, by their logic, they should say, well, don't tell a thief that stealing is wrong unless you are willing to provide all of their desires and needs for the rest of their lives. Right? And in other words, unless you personally provide the solution to that person's sin, that person's breach of morality, that person's issue, you don't have a right to speak up. Okay, well, God says, "Thou shalt not steal." And I agree with that. Okay? So let's do another area. God says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And he also says that he hates divorce. So if I share that sentiment that people should not commit adultery and then avoid divorce as much as possible, not get a divorce. If I share that, am I now responsible for having shared that sentiment to provide wonderful mates for these people who will never tempt them to commit adultery and never cause them to want to have a divorce? Am I now on the hook to provide for them a mate, cradle to grave, who will provide all of these needs for them? No, it's ridiculous. It's silly. So let's do another one. God says, "Thou shalt not lie," right? So if I say online, you shouldn't lie, you should tell the truth, then again, by their logic, their response would be, well, then if you don't want anyone to lie, then you need to give them access. You need to provide for them all of the truth that is available. So obviously, I need to pay for their college. I need to pay for them, provide for them an education where they can learn everything possibly that's true in the world so that they will never encounter a falsehood. Is that also the way that this works? And then, of course, again, applying it specifically to this matter, they say, if you think that you should not, a baby should not be killed in the womb, then you have to personally take care of that baby from cradle to grave. Now, again, Christians would agree in a sense that, of course, we help one another, and we do. This is why churches have programs to help single mothers. This is why they have programs to watch kids, to look after the children, to take care of all of these people that we care about, and we do try to help. But that does not shift the moral responsibility to someone else simply because you don't want to take care of your own family. It does not follow. It does not follow at all. Because essentially your argument is coming down to the fact that you're saying economics are more important than life. And I think that that's a horrific view. That's a terrible way to view the world. Essentially, what you're saying is if I'm ever in a situation where my life is not going great, or it's hard, or it's challenging, then I should be able to kill to get out of that situation. Like, how does this follow? How does that follow? Are these same, and I've seen mothers who post this stuff about saying, unless you're cradle to grave ready to support them, don't say you're pro-life. So are you saying when you encounter these dire straits and there aren't all these free programs and all of this help out there, which I wouldn't disagree that there could be more, but when you're saying when you come into a situation where you're in poverty, or you're you're struggling, or your kids have to be put in programs to get help, you're saying it's better off to kill those kids. That's the argument, and you really ought to think about that before you make that kind of argument, because it's I think it's been said before, that was the conclusion that Thanos came to, right? Poverty is so bad, the only solution is population control. That's what you're saying. We should cull a part of the population so that they don't have to live in suboptimal living conditions. Again, where is your morality coming from? Where are these ideas coming from? That's a horrific way to view the world. A horrific way to view the world. It'd be better if people died if they didn't have all of the, and then the question is, what standard of living are you pushing? What's the standard of living that would be acceptable to not have to kill someone? Is it your current standard? Could it possibly be a higher standard? How much wealth and resources available to you do you need for murder to not be your natural solution? Think about that, because a lot of people are not thinking about that. They're just offering up these pithy sort of ideas in order to justify the right to choose to kill your own baby. And we don't have that choice. Look at that other video that I mentioned if you want to look at discuss some of the scripture in there. But it's fairly obvious. It's not just thou shalt not kill. God hates the hands that shed innocent blood. Right after the Ten Commandments are given, there's the case law of what happens if a man injures a woman fighting and it causes the woman to to lose the baby. It says they shall pay with life, life for life, foot for foot, eye for eye. So you don't get to just say, oh, well, you lost the child, no big deal. It's just a fetus. Okay. By the way, fetus is just Latin for baby. So, and it also tells me all of these people making this argument have no idea what is actually involved in an abortion. Abortion is usually a murderous doctor who, for some reason, has their conscience seared, and they have these metal tongs that go inside the birth canal, inside the woman, grab hold of the baby, smash the head, dismember the child, and then they slowly pull the pieces out one by one, putting it on an examining table and trying to line it all up to make sure they have all of the parts. It's horrific, it's brutal, and it should never be happening, and it should not, of course, be legal. So, yes, end abortion, and Roe versus Wade. Thanks. Bye.